Welcome to Occam'sology, where we take complexities in the market and break them down to simple expressions. I'm your host, Occam's Phaser. And this is a Hell's Trading Floor production. Of course, this is not financial advice, and I am not a financial advisor. This is meant for educational purposes only. We're going to be talking about BBIG, Vinco Ventures. You're currently looking at the 3-day chart. BBIG closed the day last Friday at $4.07, and after hours closing at $4.21. What I want to do real quick is focus on purely the volume profile of BBIG and just kind of take a look at its history. So we're going to go ahead and look at its entire history, and we're going to drop a line right here along this density right at $3. And without context, this really means nothing yet, but let's continue. We're going to go ahead and hide this. Pull up another volume density. Now we're going to look at the run up in January to right now, to the current. So this will be here to here. Density staying relatively the same at that $3 level. Now let's add one more. Hide that. We're going to look at just the volume from this run up to current. Density $3. Now that we have these three profiles built out, which would be the entirety of the stock, the run up to current, and the most current run up, let's go back and look at other volume levels and densities to see if there's any significance. What I'm kind of looking for is where this density starts to die off, which we're just going to go ahead and arbitrarily mark this, the $4.32. And because that's arbitrary, it does happen to line up exactly though with this last candle, or I'm sorry, the wick of this candle, which I believe if you look at the daily lines up with the 200 MA as well. So the $4.32, just call it the $4, the mid $4 range, is going to be significant to break through in terms of volume density. And the reason that I'm talking about this is, and let me hide this. Think about what happened. So BBIG opens up, people buy, you've got bag holders. People bought up at these levels. It came down. Now, the next time that these people are able, if they held, they can get out if they held all the way through September 21st. And it was possible to shake these past bag holders out during this run up, possibly during this run up when people started to see their losses turn back into almost neutral. But this is only going to be a very, and we can pull this up, this volume shelf up here, pretty insignificant to this volume shelf here. So although we want to keep an eye when the stock gets up to this price, because we have not got there yet, there's no point in really analyzing levels up here. And I say that as yet, not yet. Now your next volume shelf will be right here in between 432 and we'll call it 531. So about $1 range there, which you can see all this consolidation after this retracement of this run up. You have a lot of volume, a lot of people that have bought and sold in this range. But from a technical standpoint, this top of this consolidation being significant to break through in order to get to its next volume shelf, which would be up to $7.95, call it $8. After that $8 mark, you'll notice that the selling pressure starts to really step up. And that makes sense because you start to get towards all-time highs and there is profit taking, heavy profit taking going to happen above $8. Now let's go ahead and hide the overall volume profile and look at this January run-up. We'll zoom in a little bit. Just kind of analyzing this further. I'm going to start up here at this top volume shelf. We have this 795 marked. I also want to go ahead and mark the 844 just to kind of create a zone right there. We're going to go ahead and change that to a dashed line. So now what I've done is created this zone up here of selling pressure that I would expect to see. We've also created this zone right here between $3 and $4.50. It's currently attempting to break out of this region and up to this $5.50 level to test. What you've got in between is some significant volume, you know, compared to anything above $8, but it is kind of no man's land. It very quickly, and let's hide this. BBIG likes to very quickly move through this region with violence. So the longest time it ever spent in this zone would actually be back here at between December 18. So looking at this further, if we want to go ahead and maybe break this zone down even further, we could, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Look at the candles itself instead of the volume and find that I'm going to use this 685 level just because on this initial birth of the stock, you did get above it and very quickly again reach north of $8, and then act as deceleration through that $7 mark and down to the bottom of that range. Not too many of these candles opened and closed on the same side of this $6.85 mark. So now I feel comfortable about some of these levels that reference the volume profile. We no longer need to pull that profile up. We're going to zoom out. We're going to switch over to the daily chart. I'm going to kind of zoom in here. And I went ahead and dropped some vertical lines here. And what they're referencing down here is this QQE indicator, which is just basically, and I'm not going to get into it, but it's a smoother version of the RSI, which is really just kind of used as a momentum indicator. Now really just by itself, isolated this the QQE indicator doesn't mean much in this context, but what I want to point out is a pattern. And we're going to do that by just circling a few things here. Now, notice this flip on the QQE. The momentum changed. The stock ran up, and it was able to get above this 531 right here immediately. Oh, and let's change that color. Change it to pink. Again, we had a flip. It attempted. It got above this 432. This attempt was a bit weak, so I'm not going to go back and mark this as significant, but this right here is significant. This momentum changed, and it was able to break that 531. Now, your next momentum flip, definitely able to break that 531. Oh, you know, we landed way up here. This momentum flip, it didn't last very long, but it did start itself under that 531 and ended up coming up above that $8 level. Now, again, we have a little bit insignificant flip here in momentum. Nothing to really look about, but You can see our QQE is fading from red to gray. It did get red again for a few days, a few weeks ago, but it is turning gray and has flipped green. So could we expect, and we did see this 432 being tested, which back here on March 19th, there was this flip. It did test that level. So, do we see rejection, or do we start to see these up here? Now, we can take it a bit further, and this might start to get a little bit messy, but we can go ahead and head on the whole moving average. We can see some deviation starting to happen. We're getting this flip, and you are starting to see this cloud deviation in the hull, which if we come back here, try to find a good example of it. There might not be one, and there isn't. So I apologize, but you are getting this deviation right here, which could be a sign of your hull about to flip green, but not yet on the daily. We can look at its follow line and see that the follow line is still red, and we are currently in a downtrend. So just kind of using this strategy of the hull and the QQE, it wouldn't be a buy signal quite yet on the daily chart because our follow line has not flipped green. Our hull has not flipped green. But that said, if we flip to the 1 hour, it's going to paint a much bigger story. I'm going to go ahead and get this off for now. So you had your deviation, the flip on the whole moving average. You have a nice flip on the QQE. And your follow line has now turned blue. And just so you know, this whole indicator as set up is set to 60 on the length, which really works better on 1 hour charts or below. But nonetheless, we can get context looking at the bigger time frames, like the daily, to see this deviation and see that flip if it comes. But what I'm going to be looking for as BBIG moves up to this volume shelf, this 5 to 3.5, I'm sorry, the $5 to $5.31 level, this zone right here, going to be looking for the QQE to remain green and strong. I do not want to see any candle bodies on the 1 hour close below the follow line. And the price must remain above its whole indicator. This just based on the 1 hour chart, this entry after the whole crossed green, the follow line turned blue, and the QQE was green, and you get a nice bullish candle that opens and closes. That 289 would have been a good entry, and the trade would remain open, considering that no candle body has closed below the blue follow line. But I digress and get off of the whole indicator, and we'll take that away. So I just want to wrap this up as concluding on the volume and where we started on the volume shelf. We're going to go back to this 3-day, the original chart we started on. Now, I'm going to be looking at this $3 psychological level as support going into Tuesday's trading day. I'm going to be looking at 496 to 531 to be acting as resistance. I'm also going to be looking at how the stock goes with the 200 MA. I'm sorry, I had a brain fart. Reacts with the 200 MA. I'm also looking on the daily chart for a confirmation of the 12 and 26 EMA crossover. If BBIG decides to get over this $5.30, what do we call it on this chart? $5.31, we'll call it $5.50. I would look for a possible retracement because of this volume profile. And we will put this one back on. But you have this shelf. Remember this volume shelf. I'm also going to be taking note of open interest changes on the significant out of the money and possibly at the money strikes that are coming up on the monthlies on January 24th. I'm sorry, January 21st, February 18th, and April 14th. The most significant thing that I'd like to point out here is these $6 calls on April 14th, the monthly, as well as the upcoming January monthly. We have 74,000, call it 75, roughly 34,000 sitting on the April. Now, to wrap this video up, I'm going to end with unusual whales. We're going to take a look at those April 14th, the monthly expiry. We're looking at the $6 calls. And if we go over here to the flow and we look at the 414, the sixes, we're going to see this open interest, 33,245. Okay. Now, where did this open interest come from? It's possible that it came right here on 1022. Okay. Let's go back to the chart real quick for context, which BBIG was trading in between $5.57 and $5, which over here on Unusual Whales confirmed this trade, which adds up to $3.2 million. If it's the same party, which in my mind, both of them coming in at the same exact time, both being sell to open, which this was keep in mind, this is a bearish bet. Someone sold these thinking that the price of the stock would not reach $6 by April. So this is something, and this isn't a lot of the OI that's currently out there, and it's a little bit further away, but this is something to keep an eye on because we may see some large purchase for the $6 April monthlies, but that might come in this volume size of 25,000. It might be broken up into multiple orders, but it could be confused as a bullish trade, but we have to keep in mind that it might be buying to close, which, yes, that would be bullish premium, but it doesn't really mean anything in terms of how it will affect the stock because the OI will be closed out if that's the case. If BBIG decides to start running north of 5 and into 6, you might start to see market makers hedging, if not already, because you do have some further out expiry that might have not been considered into the hedging process yet, possibly from February. These are getting a little close, so I wouldn't be surprised if the majority of this has not been hedged for already as of late last week. Maybe some has not. If open interest continues to climb, then I would expect there to be some bullish price movement because of that hedging. So keep an eye on the $5 and $6 strikes for the monthly on January 21st upcoming, and its significant OI percent increase or decrease. Anyways, guys, gals, it's been fun. I hope you got something from this video. If you have any comments, just let me know. If I misspoke about anything or confused you, please feel free to ask me. Best of luck out there to everyone. You guys have a good day.